Next speaker is Ben Perkers. He'll be followed by Alan Nixon.
My name is Ben Perkis. I live in the town of Shenango, and I work with NIRAD. In the town that I live in, if I want to build a shed in my backyard, I need to go to the town. I need to ask their permission. I need to apply for a permit. I need to make sure that I do things in accordance with the town zoning rules. Also, my neighbors are all sent a postcard saying that I might be building this shed. And they are given an opportunity to go to the town to express any concerns they might have that my building that shed might affect their way of life, might be too noisy when I'm building it, might not look good, might be cause some pollution somehow. So they all have that opportunity. On the other hand, if my neighbor has a gas lease, then a gas company can come and they can erect a 5-acre well pad next to me. They could have lights, noise, vibration, toxic fumes, 24/7. They can have truck trips going all hours of the day. They could potentially be damaging my well. And I never get a postcard. None of us ever get a postcard giving a chance to go to the local town and say if it's going to affect our way of life. My question is, what is so special about the gas industry that they are allowed to do this? What is so special about the gas industry that they are allowed all these exemptions? The gas industry is allowed exemptions from most of the major environmental federal regulations, and yet they insist it is safe. If it's so safe, then why do they need all the exemptions? What is so special about them? The DEC normally requires an environmental impact statement for any project, any large-scale project, to determine what effect it's going to have on the local environment, what impact it's going to have. But we're expected to accept a generic environmental impact statement because it would be too costly to the gas industry to apply for an individual environmental impact statement for each well they wanted to drill. Now, I live at the bottom of a hill. At the top of that hill, there's an 80-acre property that's leased for gas drilling. And if a gas company wanted to go in and drill there, the SGEIS, as it currently stands, really does nothing to protect me from this. It's just generically what's good. So I'm requesting that this SGEIS be withdrawn for that reason. Thank you.
Thank you. Alan Nixon. And the next speaker will be Amanda Sissenstein. I'm sorry, Alan Nixon? The next speaker. You're on deck, ma'am. It's possible.
My name is Alan Nixon, and I broadcast a public access program every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. And my academic background is the history of Western political theory. That's my discipline. I've read and I've watched and I've listened to the whole story from both sides, particularly the gas drilling story in high-cost commercials and advertisements from ExxonMobil and other big money gas and oil companies. I'm not buying Exxon anymore for my car. It's really a pollution bubble ready to burst. Early on, I heard the case for gas drilling from the former Broome County lawyer, and I accent former, and former Broome County executive, and that's former too. Then I read about State Senator Thomas Libous, who represents this geographic area, advocating gas drilling. I think he therefore deserves a pink slip. Lou Santoni, the CEO of the Binghamton Chamber of Commerce, made a similar mark for the chamber. Why did the State Department of Environmental Conservation schedule this hearing under direction of Commissioner Joe Martins? I think it is part of a process to soften Albany's decision that has already been made and report to Governor Cuomo that fracture drilling will be allowed to proceed in New York State. That's how the politicians in Albany work, with high-profile issues disturbing most of the people. The politicians stretch out the process until the time is ripe to make the predetermined decision. In this case, I think the politicians and their hired public employees are in the pockets of the gas and oil industry because they expect to benefit with new big money, just as landowners with leased properties to the gas industry expect to benefit with big new money. So what will we in our area become if this happens? What will our Adirondacks, our Catskills, Finger Lakes, Broome County lakes and parks, scenic foliage, hiking trails, Delaware, Chemung, Shenango, and Susquehanna rivers, and the subsurface become? Serving gas and oil oligarchies, that's what they will become. That's what we will become if it happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Amanda Sissenstein, and the next speaker will be Linda Levine.
My name is Amanda Sissenstein. I am 30 years old. I was born and raised in Endicott, New York. My entire immediate family and much of my extended family currently lives in the Southern Tier, Endwell, Endicott, Newark Valley, Binghamton, and they have for all of their lives. My grandmother on my father's side had 12 kids. My grandmother on my mother's side had 4 kids, and I've actually lost count of how many first cousins I have. And as you might imagine, different members of my family are all over the political spectrum. It is nearly impossible, very rare, to find an issue that almost all of us agree on. However, all of my immediate family and most of my extended family agree that hydrofracking is a bad idea for New York State. The first thing I noticed reading through the DEC is the inconsistency in language when transitioning between discussing the negative impacts and the benefits. When discussing the benefits, terms are used like will, is, going to, will be, etc. However, whenever the negative impacts are discussed, terms like might, could, may, potentially are used. This suggests to me that this document was written to convince the public, not to inform the public and elected officials. There are
Folks, please be quiet. The stenographer cannot get the comments down if people are making noise in the audience.
There are several grammatical errors. The first two I found right in the executive summary, page 24. In the first sentence, the word do should be does. Page 17 to 18, last paragraph into the first paragraph, the word in should be is. Clearly, this was a rushed document put out by a department that was both under pressure and understaffed. If we cannot trust that the DEC is able to produce a thorough and accurate DEC, then how can we trust that the DEC will be able to effectively regulate and enforce the regulations to protect New York State? Is this the attention to detail that we're to expect? The DEC has yet to develop legitimate, effective regulations. There are many issues I would like to address and comment on, but they are missing from the DEC. Cumulative impacts, a detailed study of public health effects, and a detailed plan for treating wastewater, to name a few. There are only vague references to an unfinished, too weak to even be called a plan for what to do with toxic radioactive wastewater. But I guess we shouldn't worry about that since the DEC has categorized it as non-hazardous. I am a strong advocate for local communities, economies, business, banking, culture, food, pretty much anything and everything local. And I'm appalled at the lack of protections and input for local communities in the permitting process. One of the sections discussing this, the role of local municipalities and communities in Chapter 7, page 144 to 145, addressing mitigation for the impact on local municipalities. The industry is responsible for digging up any land use documents, laws, policies, ordinances, indicating whether their project is inconsistent or consistent with these documents and policies. First, it should be up to the communities to decide what is consistent with, beneficial to,
Thank you. Linda Levine, and the next speaker will be Sheila Cohen.
Well, I guess this is appropriate timing from the last speaker, although we didn't coordinate it. My name is Linda Levine. I was just proudly elected to the town board of the town of Dryden, New York, where, in a landslide vote, the people of Dryden spoke 3,000 strong and said, "We don't want fracking around here." It is clear to me from going door to door that the people of Dryden, knowing that our homes are embedded in a larger matrix of open fields that potentially invite fracking, understand that this is not the appropriate solution to energy problems or job problems. We are in terrible economic times. My heart cries out to the generation of young people who are doing everything right and not finding jobs. And my heart goes out to people in middle age who don't have jobs and have no prospect of getting them. But that is not a reason to lose faith and to give up on our futures and our children's futures. We must protect what God has given us in this land, and that is not by fracking the gas out of it. It is by worshiping, respecting the beauty of the lakes and trees and fields around here. And that is what the people of Dryden said in a 60-40 vote. And that vote was very heavily contested because Anschutz, the 79th richest man in America, sued the town of Dryden to say, "You, the people of Dryden, do not have the democratic right to determine your fate in town board meetings that democratically, systematically listened to the people of Dryden, collected petitions that people in Dryden handed in, and said, please protect us." And Dryden said, "We will protect you," and the people voted to keep that protection. And we turn to you as the DEC for the same kind of governmental protection, not business as usual. This is not business as usual. This started with Cheney giving away our rights. He has sold our birthright for a mess of porridge. If you invite in the wind, you will reap the whirlwind. You cannot do business with the devil, and these companies are the devil.
Thank you. Sheila Cohen. And the next speaker will be Kenneth Williams.
It's a hard act to follow. Very powerful, and congratulations for that powerful speech. Your comments resonate very strongly with me. I'm a mother and a grandmother and a very concerned citizen of New York State. I see no evidence at all to indicate that this process is safe after reading reams and reams of articles, many studies. And what I do find is case after case comes to light on a daily basis of those negatively impacted. The SGEIS ignores the serious health impacts: poisoned water, air contamination. Scientists and medical professionals agree that this is not a safe process. Thousands of medical professionals across the state have asked for health impact studies. Imagine multiple wells over a long period of time on a well pad, with all that hazardous work going on. Workers right on those well pads, breathing in fumes, dust from silica sand, and impacted by other contaminants. One doesn't even have to be near or live near a well pad to be impacted. Dust from silica sand, for example, becomes airborne. The cases of asthma in Texas are higher than the national average for young people. I picked up a single flyer on one of your tables out in the lobby, and I noticed that one of them said, "What have we learned from Pennsylvania?" Well, I'm asking, what have you learned from Pavilion, Wyoming? What have you learned from Dish, Texas? What have you learned from Flower Mound, Texas? What have you learned from all of those communities that have been impacted, where people are getting sick? And I'm going to read just a short passage about a family in Wyoming. "People are sick here," says one of the residents. "Our water, air, soil, and our health are all connected. Thanks to the EPA, we will know what chemicals are in our water. Now we need to know the chemicals in our air, our homes, and our bodies. Thank you for the work you're doing."
Thank you. Kenneth Williams, to be followed by Claire Sandberg.
Thank you for listening to my comments. I'm Kenneth Williams. I'm a farmer. I raise beef cattle, I raise miniature horses, and I love the property I live on. If you notice my shirt, it says jobs on it. I don't need a job, I'm retired, okay? But many of my fellow citizens and residents here in New York do need jobs. Where are the jobs gonna come from? Tell me where the jobs are gonna come from, okay? They're gonna come from gas drilling.
Excuse me, hold the time. Folks, you have to keep your comments to yourselves. If you want to speak, you have to come up to the podium when it's your turn. This is disruptive, and it's not allowing the speaker to finish their comments. Please be respectful.
Thank you, sir.
Continue, sir.
I don't know why we're paying the DEC to do this study if we aren't going to abide by their findings, okay? Evidently, the DEC does not have any scientists or geologists that know what they're doing. God did provide us with the gas that we are seeking to pull out of the center of the earth. You want to talk about God? He provided that gas, okay? There is no known, proven incident of hydrofracking contaminating any well water. No proven incident.
Folks, please.
You want to talk about air pollution? Natural gas is the cleanest burning fossil fuel we know of today. You want to clean up your air? Let's get rid of the diesel trucks running our highways. Let's get rid of the coal-burning electrical generating stations. Let's get rid of the gas-powered cars most of you probably drove here today. The emissions from those vehicles are much, much worse than they would be if we were all driving cars powered by natural gas. I don't know what else I can say except please consider, if we are a state that really wants to welcome business to this state, that we don't drive business out of the state because of excessive fees for drilling, excessive fees for permits. If you want to talk about how that should be funded, it should be funded by the money I might get from my lease or from my royalty, okay? Without the gas drilling, the state will not get that tax money because I won't have it to give to. I will not be able to go downtown and buy things that I need for my house, like maybe a new rug, maybe a new blacktop driveway, maybe a new lawnmower. These businesses will not benefit if I can't spend the money. 3.5 years is enough.
Thank you, sir. The next speaker is Claire Sandberg, to be followed by Scott, looks like Curl Cook.
Hi, I'm Claire Sandberg from Frack Action. I just want to say at the beginning that if the DEC listened to the science and looked at the facts on this issue, we would not be here today. It is an outrage that Commissioner Martens can tell the people of New York State that the devastation that has happened every single other place this practice has been done will not happen in New York. There is no credible evidence that any of the supposed technical fixes to these problems actually work. Triple layer casing has already been used throughout Pennsylvania and is not preventing epidemic rates of methane contamination, which have been well documented in the Duke University study. So why is the DEC willfully ignorant of the facts? I think that's an important question we need to ask here. This debate has pivoted on risk-reward, but we already know that the landowners and communities that have embraced this industry, staked their future on this industry, have based that support on a house of cards. We know that all of the promises of royalties, revenues, and jobs were based on now discredited gas estimates. The U.S. Geological Survey just slashed the estimate of gas in the Marcellus Shale by 80%. And the DEC used that discredited statistic as the basis for all of their claims of economic benefits. Furthermore, we know that the DEC only asked their contractor E&E to look at the benefits of fracking and did not ask them to quantify the costs. So the rewards are not what they have been stated to be, and the risks are beyond our comprehension. Every single well site is a dirty bomb waiting to go off. And we're talking about putting 80,000 of these across upstate New York, in farmland, in schoolyards, in floodplains. I've been to the site of the Bradford County blowout, and I met the woman, some of the people who live nearby, who were told, be ready at any moment to leave your house in the middle of the night, have your bags packed, because 75-foot flames could engulf your home at any moment. They have radioactive drinking water. They are told
Folks, please.
They are told to close their mouths while they're taking a shower because so that they do not accidentally inhale radioactive water. How many families have to go through that? And what is the proof? Where is the proof that that will not happen here in New York? It should be enough to know that this industry has essentially admitted they cannot operate without breaking the law, without violating the Safe Drinking Water Act, the Clean Water Act, the Clean Air Act, the Superfund Act, the Hazardous Waste Act. They have essentially said they are above the law. Millions of people right now are standing up to say that no one should be above the law, and across New York State, local communities will continue to take action to take this into their own hands if the DEC refuses to do its job.
Thank you. Scott Kurkowski, to be followed by Charles Carpenter.
Hi, my name is Scott Kurkowski. I represent the Joint Landowner Coalition of New York, representing over 70,000 people who want to bring natural gas development to New York State. Thank you to the DEC and Commissioner Martens for moving this process along so that we can bring these tremendous opportunities to New York. Thank you also to Governor Cuomo for having the courage to guide our state in the right direction. The DEC, through the SGEIS, has helped set the record straight. You told us there is no evidence anywhere in the country that the process of hydraulic fracturing has compromised fresh groundwater. You've informed us through the public, through the SGEIS that no significant adverse impact to water resources is likely to occur due to vertical migration of fracturing fluids. And the DEC scientists acknowledge that fluids have been trapped in shale for hundreds of millions of years, implying that there is no mechanism for discharge of fluids to other formations. Now, certainly, we know the dangers of pollution from all the other energy sources that we have in our country. And apparently, many people in this room are arguing for us to continue those energy sources instead of this clean energy source. We know the dangers of pollution from coal-fired power plant emissions, the environmental travesty of strip mining, the risk of offshore drilling, and the potential devastating impact of a nuclear power plant accident. There should be no dispute that natural gas is the best energy option capable of satisfying our energy needs.
Folks, please, again, the court reporter needs to transcribe the entire statement, and when you're talking over the speaker, that's not possible. So please refrain from making comments until the end of the speaker's comments. Thank you.
Last year, we sent over $600,000 per minute to foreign countries for foreign oil. Our natural resources that we have here, the natural gas, have brought our country closer than ever to achieving energy independence, and it's New York's obligation to do its part. Natural gas development will produce jobs and tax revenues that will benefit all of our citizens. We did estimates of the town of Windsor, for instance. 5 well pads over 5 years will produce $20 million of local tax revenue. $13 million to the Windsor School District alone. Those are opportunities that we cannot turn down. That's simply fiscal responsibility that we must follow. Sir, I heard this morning comments about mortgages and how apparently the mortgage market is going to fall apart, even though we know that mortgages are being made throughout the country in other oil and gas producing states. It's not true. I am closing these loans and loans that are saleable on the secondary mortgage market. While I applaud much of your good work, there are still parts of the document which fail to achieve the right balance. As you know, under the Environmental Conservation Law 23-301, there is an obligation to produce a greater ultimate recovery of oil and gas. There are parts of this document which simply fail to meet those public interests. I fear that attempts to regulate or over-regulate will decrease competition in New York and hamper our ability to negotiate greater lease protection for our landowners. Please, look at that balance again so we can protect our land and maximize the benefits to our states. We have patiently stood by while the greatest economic opportunity of our lives remains on hold in New York. It's time to move forward. 3.5 years is enough.
Thank you. The next speaker is Charles Carpenter, and you'll be followed by John Cuomo. Folks, please allow the speaker to speak.
Thank you for coming and allowing me to speak. I'm Charles Carpenter. I'm a Vestal resident and a member of the Vestal Coalition. I am a lifelong resident of Binghamton and Vestal, a retired physician, an environmentalist, and a landowner. I am 100% in favor of safe and responsible natural gas development. I would like to compliment the New York State DEC on doing a very complete job in reviewing the science of natural gas and using this information to formulate reasonable regulations for safe development of the natural gas industry in New York State. Draft SGEIS Table 5.1 shows the advantage of horizontal wells with multiple wells drilled from a common pad, leading to significantly less land disturbance. It would seem logical that whenever the industry would like to develop 2 adjacent units from one common well pad, they should be encouraged to do so. This would lead to even less surface disturbance. In the southern tier, change has happened and will continue to happen. Recently, the change has been bad. We need jobs. We need jobs here. We need jobs now. Adopt the SGEIS regulations now so the southern tier can start having positive change. 3.5 years is long enough. It's time to approve the SGEIS regulations and move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next speaker is John Cuomo, to be followed by Bet Eck.
Good evening. My name is John Cuomo. I'm a member of the Tioga Coalition and a consultant to landowners on strategies for their land use. Environmental protection and public safety are the primary goals to be achieved by facts and science, not fear or politics. Natural gas is the transition fuel which must be harvested now to allow time for the development of renewable energy. According to Syracuse University hydrology professor Donald Siegel, switching to natural gas, the cleanest of the fossil fuels, will cut carbon dioxide emissions by 17%. Hydraulic fracturing is taking place in New York State now in vertical wells and has been used for decades throughout the nation. Professor Siegel also said hydraulic fracturing opponents have dispensed with science and rely on fear to turn the public against drilling. The economic value to New York State will go far beyond good-paying jobs. It'll provide support for our schools, infrastructure, state and local governments, and public projects and programs. New economic data reveals that 1 in 7 families are considered poor. The increase in humanitarian assistance that has taken place in Pennsylvania has made a significant difference to the poor, locally, regionally, and beyond. I personally have spoken to many landowners in our region that would help meet the needs of people with financial hardships. When the disastrous flooding severely impacted our region in September, volunteer support and donations were the lifeline that helped many get through the initial stages. In the event of such emergencies in the future, natural gas revenues will be available to support the recovery process. Whoops. Second page here. This is a limited time offer. While it is true that gas is not going away, the gas companies will not invest their resources where the regulatory climate is full of burdensome requirements and restrictions, causing them to go to more business-friendly states. Drilling opponents will never be satisfied. Appeasing the irrational opposition will only serve to further harm every New York State resident by denying them a variety of present and future benefits. Many of you have heard of NIMBY, not in my backyard. Well, there's a new acronym.
Thank you, sir. Your time is up. The next speaker.
I'm going to I'd like to call up the next group